I'm John Heilemann, and with all due respect to the summer of 2015, sayonara. All right. Happy we are about to get out of town for the long weekend day. Sports fans, on our special With All Due Reflect summer recap tonight, Trump, and a whole bunch of candidates not named Trump. But first, you know who. There's no question the summer of 2015 was the summer of the Donald, but it was just a short time ago that people were still saying things like this.
Will Donald Trump run?
No, we've gone through this before with Sarah Palin.
Trump has a long record of clownishly pretending he's going to run for president, and people take him seriously, including a lot of people at this network, which drives me crazy.
Nobody thinks I'm running. They don't think I'm running. Nobody. It's really a funny thing. In June, I will announce one way or the other, and I think you may be surprised. Even you may be surprised, but I'll be announcing sometime in June.
I will only be surprised if you say you are running.
It's kind of awesome, Megyn Kelly and Donald Trump, given everything that happened after. Okay, so before the Labor Day holiday, we thought it was important to pause and contemplate just how we got here. Told through the lens of this program, the unexpected emergence, evolution, and efflorescence of Donald J. Trump, politician.
I'm Mark Halperin.
And I'm John Heilemann. Mr. Trump, thanks for your time, and thanks for being such a huge fan of our program, With All Due Respect.
Tremendous show, tremendous success.
And you yourself have a show, The Apprentice.
And Celebrity Apprentice.
So, you're finally running for president.
I've never done this before. Ever. I am officially running for President of the United States.
With all due respect to Donald Trump.
With all due respect to Donald Trump.
With all due respect to Donald Trump, you're not the only one who knows how to escalate a situation. Happy National Donald Trump Day, sports fans. On the Trump show tonight, Trump. And then Donald Trump again.
But first, Trump.
And now, returning to our regularly scheduled programming, Donald Trump. He's a more compelling figure than in these shorter...
Excuse me, it could be Mr. Trump.
He's a Rorschach test with a really funky hairdo, you know? This is not Michelle Bachmann. This is not Herman Cain. This is not just a joke candidacy that's going to suddenly pop up and then go away.
Every other candidate in the field would kill for his poll numbers.
Speaking of polls, a new Fox News national poll shows support for the Donald the Trump at 11%, more than double his pre-announcement total.
Mr. Trump has been telling people for a long time that once people took him seriously that he was running, he would rise.
The Donald tops every leaderboard in sight.
Trump gets crazy high best in show marks on things like handling the economy, terrorism, health care, and yes, immigration.
Here's the latest sign that the Donald is a force field of otherworldly energy that absorbs anything you fire at it and converts it into fuel. A Reuters Ipsos poll has him at 32%.
Who's doing well right now?
Donald Trump, Donald Trump, and Donald Trump.
In our ongoing attempt to understand this great big Trump phenomena, we partnered with our colleagues at Purple Strategies and did a focus group last night with 12 Donald backers in New Hampshire.
When he referred to some illegal immigrants as rapists, that bothered people?
Didn't bother me.
Didn't bother me.
What do you think a Trump presidency would look like?
Like classy. And I feel like he'd bring a lot of companies back.
I look forward to it. It'll be an interesting thing every day.
What, if anything, can and will pierce his Teflon?
Trump is very effectively parlaying a sense of anger, anxiety. There's certainly a healthy dose of racism in what he's doing.
Donald Trump is out at NBC.
A normal candidate would be in trouble with this stuff. I don't think Trump will be.
Over the weekend in Ames, Iowa, Mark asked Trump about his suggestion that John McCain is no war hero.
I have to be me.
Will Trump survive this flap? Will he maybe even thrive from this flap? Or will he take a dive from this flap?
Someone who liked Trump before this, I can't imagine that this is what's going to turn him off.
With all due respect to Macy's, you can take the Donald off of your shelves, but you can't take the Donald off of us.
Who is giving Donald Trump money at this point? Are there people who actually donate money to the Trump campaign, or is it all his money?
They'll be coming after you for his super PAC.
Exactly, the Trump super PAC.
How much is Donald Trump actually, really, factually worth?
Trump says around 10.
Mm-hmm. We come to 2.9
billion.
Billion, still billion.
Still with the B.
Lot of money.
Immigration is the horse that Donald Trump rode in on, and he's ridden pretty far on it so far. My question for you, is it time now for him to start to shift and diversify his portfolio when it comes to issues?
$600 billion to deport 11 million people. Do you know that's how many people live in Ohio?
202.
Whoa. Hold on there. Donald, you got to call Lindsey Graham's office if you want to talk to him.
RNC Chairman Reince Priebus called Trump to tell him to tone it down. Mark, if the mainstream Republican Party wants to control Trump, can they?
Easiest question ever asked by one host to another on this show. No, they cannot.
He's the only one who is bigger than Fox as a force right now, and that is a powerful place to be, no doubt. The Donald's rightward poll, Donald Trump versus everyone. The primary of Trump. How much is the party establishment freaking out?
Donald as a possible third-party candidate is a nightmare.
The Trump attack on Jeb, that he's a, what do you call him, a low-energy guy, I think it's fundamentally accurate.
He's the low-T candidate. He's the low-T candidate.
The low-T candidate. There are pills for that, but Jeb's not taking them.
What did you think of the way that Bush decided to take him on? Basically saying Trump's a closet Democrat, I'm a real conservative.
I think that's the right way to take Trump on, because Trump really isn't a Republican. He's Trump. He's a unicorn. He's like something we've never seen.
With all due respect to those who are hoping that Kanye West would be the one to take out Donald Trump, apparently not going to happen.
Kanye West, you know what? I'll never say bad about him. You know why? Because he loves Trump.
When we come back, Donald Trump, unfiltered. All right, now it is time to take a little trip straight to the Donald's mouth. On a number of occasions this summer, Mark and I found ourselves fortunate enough to be bequeathed an audience with Trumpus Maximus himself. Like everyone else, we discovered that he had a lot to say.
Because you've never run before, most of the people in this race have, people are wondering how you're going to conduct yourself. I just want to ask you about a couple things.
I don't know.
Will you run negative television ads against your opponents as common in politics?
I don't see it. I'm not so sure I'm going to do that many ads. People know what I am and they know who I am.
Will you run negative television ads against other Republicans?
I might.
You might?
I might. I don't know that I will, but I might.
Yeah. And if you did, what would be off limits, what wouldn't be off limits? Would you just run them on policy?
Well,
or might you run them on their
I
finances or their personal stuff?
I wouldn't do personal, no. Yeah. I wouldn't do personal. I would probably do policy. I'd probably do maybe the past.
This guy is now the front runner. He should be held to account, just like me. He should be asked, as he was yesterday, how are you going to pay for it?
One thing you've been saying about him is he's low energy. Did he seem low energy there?
No, he seemed a little bit more dynamic.
Yeah.
But, you can't force that. And it was a little bit forced.
He got a little tangled up in this question about anchor babies, right?
Terrible. He took the Hispanics, and all of a sudden he changed Hispanics and Mexicans with the Asians, and now the Asian community is furious at him, and that was terrible. That was terrible.
That's not a phrase that you have any hesitance about using throughout this campaign.
No, I'm using it. Right. And nobody's complained about it when I use it. They complain about it because they don't expect he would be using that.
How much of your own personal wealth will you spend on this campaign?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, it depends. Look, I'm an intelligent person. I would say that it could be that my campaign doesn't resonate. And I'll call you guys and I'll say, John, Mark, it's not working. I'm not so proud. I'm proud, but I'm not so proud. And I'm certainly not stupid. And it could be that it's not resonating.
There are people less wealthy than you who have spent tens of millions of dollars.
Mitt Romney, for one.
Mitt Romney. Will you spend, if it's going well?
I'm going to spend millions. I'm going to spend many millions. Well, I will be up to tens of millions in the not-too-distant future. Because I'm, instinctively a good business person, I'm not going to throw money away. If I think I can't win, I'm going to call you guys and say, fellas, I think I did a pretty good job.
Are you committed to going all the way through Iowa?
I would be totally committed unless I see for some reason I'm not going to win.
Hillary Clinton has proposed that you should get rid of that carried interest loophole and tax carried interest at the same rate as ordinary income.
Right.
Do you agree with her?
Well, I'll tell you this, and the answer is yes, the carried interest is really a tremendous burden on the country.
But in this respect, do you want to tax carried interest in the same way as ordinary income is taxed?
I would take carried interest out, and I would let people that are making hundreds of millions of dollars a year pay some tax, because right now they're paying very little tax, and I think it's outrageous.
Right. So that would also affect people in limited real estate partnerships, of which you were in a fair number.
I'm okay.
So you're proposing that you'd like to raise taxes on yourself in this instance.
That's right. I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I'm, ready, willing, and you see my statements. I mean, I do very well. I don't mind paying some tax. The middle class is getting clobbered in this country. The middle class built this country, not the hedge fund guys.
What is your views of the pros and cons on the Ex-Im Bank, and where do you come down on it in the end?
I don't like it because I don't think it's necessary. It's a one-way street also. It's a sort of a feather bedding for politicians and others and a few companies. And these are companies that can do very well without it.
You think back at all the Fed shares of the past, who do you think has been the best?
Well, right now you have Janet is sort of more of the same, and I have to tell you, I often talk with two hats. For the last couple of months, I've been a politician. I've been in your world, and previous to that, I've been a business person. I've always loved low interest rates as a developer, and I've always done very well with low interest rates. And I think that, frankly, you look at what's going on now. The problem is, I think you're creating a bubble, and the bubble could explode. I liked Paul Volcker a lot. I thought he was a terrific guy in so many different ways, and he had a good pulse, and he had a good to me he was doing what had to be done.
Will campaign finance reform be an important part of your platform, and if so, what's the cornerstone of your idea about campaign finance reform?
Well, I think it could be. It wouldn't be number one. I mean, number one would be trade. Number one would be Obamacare, repealing and replacing, strengthening up the military, taking care of our vets. We have a lot of things. We have things. We could talk all day long about things we have to do. But a campaign, finance reform certainly would be something that we could talk about, and I think more than anything else is transparency. I mean, there should be total transparency so that if somebody's going to do something, and I think one of the reasons I'm so high in the polls is because everyone knows that all of the lobbyists, many of which I employ and used to employ, and I know many of them, but they have tremendous power over, in fact, with the Kochs, I called it puppets, they have tremendous power over these candidates.
In the past, you have expressed the view that the way to deal with the war on drugs is to legalize drugs. Are you still in favor of legalizing drugs?
Well, I see so many things. I look at the Colorado situation with the marijuana. It's very interesting because over the last little while, a lot of bad things are happening up there with respect to people's health and the effect that it's having on people. I am not in favor of the legalization of drugs.
I'm wondering what one or two of your most favored Bible verses are and why.
I wouldn't want to get into it because to me that's very personal. When I talk about the Bible, it's very personal.
You're an Old Testament guy or a New Testament guy?
Probably equal.
Some people say you're hopelessly insecure, and that's why you act the way you do. Are you insecure about anything?
Maybe it's a combination of both.
Are you insecure?
Everyone's insecure.
What are you insecure about? Your looks, your personality, whether people like you?
I don't know. I don't think of myself as insecure. Probably we're all insecure. Maybe insecurity is what makes you successful.
But be introspective. What are you insecure about?
Well, it is my hair.
Yeah. You love your hair.
Like it or not, it's okay.
Right.
It's
so what are you insecure
better than most.
What are you insecure about?
My chipping. Okay?
In golf.
My chipping.
Yeah.
Up next, a bunch of candidates who aren't billionaires and who have rather less interesting hair. We'll be right back after these words. If you happen to be one of the other 21 candidates, Republican or Democrat, in this presidential race, worry not. We didn't forget about you or the time you spent with us. Let's take a listen.
And joining us now on her first trip as an official presidential candidate to Iowa, Carly Fiorina.
Former New York Governor George Pataki.
Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker.
Rick Santorum.
And former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley. Ohio Governor John Kasich. Senator Bernie Sanders. And Texas Senator Ted Cruz.
After I caught up with Chris Christie, Republican presidential candidate, South Carolina Senator, and moonlighting stand-up comedian Lindsey Graham.
A lot of people have come and said, I didn't know who you were. But, the wonderful thing is, like I was in the airport yesterday on the way here sitting down, a lady comes up to me and she says, I'm a staunch Democrat, but I love you.
That's pretty good.
That's good.
That could be Ben Carson's slogan. Staunch Democrats love me.
Do you ever, though, have to actually live on your paycheck as a temp person?
At the end of every week, I would have maybe 5 cents in the checking account. I remember needing to rent an apartment and the landlord asking me, well, how much money is in your checking account? And I wrote down $50 because that was true. So I have lived paycheck to paycheck.
So what's different this time?
What's different is the country has been in stagnation 4 more years. I've recognized what at the core of that problem is, and we have an economic platform that's going to not only unite America, but win this election. Using an arbitrary number, which is exactly what national polls are, to divide candidates in any way is not in the best interest of getting the right candidate to run. It's not a matter about me or anybody else. It's a matter about the people of America and the people in the early primary states who are going to be paying most attention to have the chance, the opportunity to see everybody in an equal
So again,
footing.
Senator Bernie Sanders, thanks for making time for us this evening. Senator Sanders,
you're never going to forgive me for that, are you?
I'm not. Neither is my cardiologist.
We got to lift the restrictions. You've got people who could draw in airstrikes with laser-guided components as air controllers, who could be doing the job to help the allies that we have there, the Sunnis, the Kurds, and others. But we're not lifting those restrictions. I think that's an important next step. I like Marco Rubio a lot. Obviously, I'm deferential to governors. I think there's a lot that's we bring to the table as having proved executive experience. But I do like Marco Rubio. I think he and I have similar thoughts in national defense and foreign policy. Overall, like him, and I like the fact that you probably commented on this, that when it was his birthday, I sent a nice little tweet saying, Marco, happy birthday from 140-something to another.
Just first talk about your mother who died of Hodgkin's disease. What was that like?
She fought, man. I tell you, she wanted to live so bad. She got sick, like I say, sometime in the fall of '75, and going through chemotherapy. And when you got a family member who's in a bad way, you want to will them well. I mean, you don't want to give up. God knows she didn't want to give up. Easter, that Easter in '76, she had her best Easter. She was feeling good, and she cooked dinner for the first time in a long time.
So just the four of you, other family there?
Yeah, no, there was some family at first, but in the evening it was just us sitting there on the couch. And I remember saying, well, boy, I gave you a good dinner, didn't I? I said, yes, ma'am, you did. And, so we thought maybe we're going to be the 1% here, and by June she was gone.
A couple calls to people who were my close friends, and I said, by the way, I was thinking this morning about something, and then I kind of made a decision. They said, what? I said, well, I've decided I'm going to run for president of the United States. And they burst out laughing. I think sometimes people just don't understand me. Some people have known me from 20 years ago, and they're commenting who I am today. And, I'm not who I was 20 years ago. I liked who I was 20 years ago, but I like who I am now. And, everything was fine. And, no big gyrations, it just was good. I enjoyed it. You know what? It was really fun to deliver the talk and to have so many people there. That's what's kind of a little bit overwhelming.
Where do you think we are? Not necessarily where you are, but where are we as a country, do you think, now in this question of what is worth sending American men and women overseas to fight for?
One of the things that preceded the failure of the nation state of Syria and the rise of ISIS was the effect of climate change and the mega drought that affected that region, wiped out farmers, drove people to cities, created a humanitarian crisis that created the symptoms, or rather the conditions of extreme poverty that has led now to the rise of ISIL and this extreme violence. So the pandemic in West Africa, there are many instances where we're behind the turning radius of a crisis and left with only military responses once it whips up and becomes too great.
And I'm not asking you to repudiate Donald Trump as a person. I don't think you're as good friends with him as some of the other people in the race who have been critical here. So I'm trying to understand what separates you from the others who feel this is sort of beyond the pale.
I'm not going to engage in the media's game of bashing another Republican candidate. I'm just not going to do it.
Some people say the reason you're not doing it, and you haven't been critical of his previous comments, is because you want to make sure that if he does get out of the race, you're able to win the supporters that he has now. Is this a political calculation?
I am not going to go into the gutter with personal attacks and impugning character. Now, let me be clear. I do think policy distinctions are fair game. So I will talk about differences, whether it is on amnesty or Common Core or religious liberty or marriage or life or any other issue. That's what's supposed to be the bread and butter of politics. But I'm not going to engage in personal attacks impugning anyone else's character.
Would Hillary Clinton be worse on the economy than Barack Obama, or you think about the same? Or?
Well, if we can just take some anecdotal snapshots, if doubling the capital gains tax is worse than Barack Obama. So in that case, I would say worse.
Bloomberg's Jennifer Epstein asked Clinton about her position on the Keystone Pipeline.
Well, Jen, thank you for that. No other presidential candidate was Secretary of State when this process started, and I put together a very thorough, deliberative, evidence-based process to evaluate the environmental impact and other considerations of Keystone. So I will refrain from commenting because I had a leading role in getting that process started, and I think that we have to let it run its course.
Do you have a goal tonight? I want all 1,200 people, including Hillary Clinton's supporters, to come out and put on my pins. That is my goal.
That's your goal. All right.
My goal. It's a modest goal. It's a modest goal.
So just to go back to the nervous thing, when you get nervous, what happens?
I get louder.
Louder.
Occasionally I get monstrous.
So you might do the monster on stage?
I do the monster.
I was shocked when I saw, given the choice between Bruce Springsteen and John Bon Jovi, that you sided with John Bon Jovi.
If you had to choose between Bruce Springsteen and Bon Jovi, not their music, but choose between them.
Oh, well, then now you open the door.
Sure, John's become a friend over the last few years, and so and Bruce I have a cordial relationship with. Right. We know each other. We've worked on some things together. But John and Dorothea have become friends of mine and Mary Pat's, and so Mary Pat and I answered it the same way, even though I've been to 124 Bruce Springsteen shows, and I think I've been to 4 Bon Jovi shows. So from a music perspective, Bruce is in my history, but John's become a friend.
But I'll ask you the question then. Desert Island Discs, right? If you were going to an island and you could only take the catalog of one or the other, what would you take?
Catalog?
You could take the catalog of one or the other. You pick. Springsteen or
well, I would take Springsteen.
The question is whether Santorum can do better than Romney did on this set at the national sport of Iowa, which is bags. So, Senator, we're going to give you a shot at this, and we're going to also talk to you about some politics while you do it, okay? So first, let's see how you do here. Give it a shot.
Let's give it a shot.
Whoa!
Give it to me.
A hole in one. Come on, there you go.
You might want to just
How about
stand
that?
pat with
Okay,
that.
thank you all very much.
Good night, good luck. All
right, so you just held a press availability while eating pork. I'm wondering if you'll commit as president to have all your press conferences while you eat Iowa pork.
That would be fun.
Governor, you have any tattoos?
How are ya? Good to see you.
Is that a no? Did you ever get close?
No. That I can remember.
Governor, getting elected one vote at a time, is that a challenge?
330 million people, it's a challenge for sure, but this is how you win in Iowa.
Sitting people one-on-one, retail politics, talking
to them. You don't want to lob it in. You got to be here. You can't helicopter in and leave. You got to be all in.
He gave out my cell phone number on national television, so I had fun with it. And at the end of the day, we'll get serious. This is the silly season.
Your monster imitation. Can you get...
And we'll be right back. Thanks a ton for joining us for our special With All Due Reflect Summer Edition. As you know by now, we are live 24/7 on BloombergPolitics.com. We're on the tube twice a day at 5 and at 8. Mark Halper and I will see you right back here after Labor Day. But for now, namaste.